Well, thanks so much for being part of this and joining us in the Word 3 times a week. Halfway through the week, and here we are and making progress. So I appreciate you guys and thank you for taking the time during the day to be looking at God's Word with me. We're in verse 22 today, and Paul is of chapter 2 in Romans. Let me just switch over there for you. Paul is really drilling in on the Jews and the Jewish people who would otherwise have thought themselves to be somehow immune or above or apart from the judgment that God's going to bring on the world. Paul is making the point from Romans 1:18 down to Romans 3 about verse 20 he's making the or 20 about 3:20. He's making the point that we're all sinners, that we are all condemned, that we all stand guilty before God. And he's, again, pressing in on the hypocrisy of the Jewish people. Say, you who say that one is not to commit adultery, do you commit adultery? You who loathe idols, do you rob temples? So Paul is continuing this accusation, this series of accusations. You who say that one is not to commit adultery. So this is a teacher, right? The one who says you're not to commit adultery. This is the teacher warning about violating the commandments. This is the neighbor warning you about the adultery that you may be thinking about or involved in right now. He's asking, do you, when you're talking to other people, when you're teaching them or counseling them, are you committing adultery yourself? You who loathe idols. And again, he's talking about an expression here, a loathing, a public pronouncement against idols. Do you rob temples? Now, the idolatry or the adultery that Paul is talking about here might not be physical adultery. It could be expressed through lustful thoughts, as Jesus talks about. Unholy fantasies, letting your mind wander and dwell on things that you know you shouldn't. Today, apparently, a lot of men are involved with different forms of pornography, perhaps women as well, which is just another form of adultery. It says when he talks about abhorring idols while robbing temples. This could maybe refer to profiting from idolatrous practices or violating what one claims to honor. In the first century Roman cities, to be part of a guild, perhaps a guild of, let's say, shoemakers or a tent maker, or a guild of people who make pottery for use in the home. They would gather, that guild would often gather in the temple of a idol that sponsored them. So they'd have their own idols that would look out for their guild. We're reminded by the guild members of the creators of the Artemis statues in Ephesus that got together. Well, perhaps some of these teachers who are warning people to loathe idols were participating in these guilds because, after all, it's just work. We'll just join with them and enjoy that time together, but we don't really serve idols. Perhaps this is how they're robbing the temples. We're not sure exactly. We do know that the heart of the issue, though, is basically duplicity, professing godliness while living in an ungodly way. And again, I think this verse really strikes at the heart of things. We don't want to, look down our noses at the Jew, in this case, or religious people in general. This verse reminds all of us that spiritual integrity is not just about what we're against. It's about how we live. It's about what we do. We may have multiple opportunities to denounce something we think is ungodly. But to live that way, to live as if to live in light of what you believe to be ungodly, that's a whole different thing. And God sees beyond what we say. He sees beyond the public image of the teacher. He looks at our hearts. He looks at our private actions. Do we hate sin outwardly, but are we entertaining it inwardly? Are we hating sin, but while at the same time encouraging others in other sinful activities? Right now, as I'm recording this, we are just finished with our taxes, and like many of you, and it's a temptation sometimes to cut corners and cheat and keep money for ourselves and to be able to justify it in our own mind. But at the same time, warning people that stealing is wrong. So that would be an example. The gospel calls us to sincere and heartfelt holiness, not just our public actions, not just outward conformity, but really an inward change. So let's ask the Spirit today in our time of prayer to expose those hidden inconsistencies in our lives, that our profession may be matched by purity and our teaching may be matched by truth lived out. As Romans will later say, let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil. Cling to what is good.